here looking like a giant. Like David and Goliath right now.
I don't know what you're talking about. We're the same height.
I want to see you hold that squat position for the next, like, as you knock your microphone over.
You were going to knock your microphone over. I'm chilling.
You chilling? Okay. Sure. You front.
Welcome to Ministry Misfits.
Every time.
Welcome to Ministry Misfits Podcast. I am Javon.
And I am Matt.
And I said it right this time. What is up, brother? How's your day?
One of these times we'll get it right. I'm doing good. What's good with you?
I'm chilling.
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty tired. I almost said low key, but I think that went out of style.
Not been good.
A bit ago.
Yeah. No.
All right. What's a Ministry Misfit? Because I don't think we hit that last episode.
We didn't. I think we just jumped in because we were so excited and we just like ran with it and it was like, that's epic. So I think as we were dialoguing and we were processing what this looks like is in all honesty, it's really this idea that we're pursuing and we're chasing after and we're believing in something and we're going. And for me, that's God, and that's what we're doing. But it's not that cookie cutter. It's not that cookie cutter, everything's perfect. Like, everything's great. Everything's wonderful. It's just a real idea that I'm not that puzzle piece that fits in your puzzle. Like I'm not gonna, be right there. I'm different. My edges aren't, perfectly smooth. I'm rough around the edges. Right now. Like, hey, he just got lined up. I didn't. I just got a hair tie pulling it all back. But like, I'm rough around the edges. And I grew up in some hard times. I grew up through some hard things. And God has kind of taken me through different seasons to grow me and cultivate me into who he's designing me to be. And so in that, I don't fit the stereotype Christian, you can say.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Well, now that we got that out the way, y'all understand I don't hear now one more question on what is this podcast about? I'm like, we done told you it's just two people going against a culture that they believe in but don't understand sometimes. Pretty much is what it comes down to.
And just doing that life, just navigating that life and figuring out where we're at in that.
Yeah, so today we want to talk about missions.
Ooh.
I am on a mission.
To talk about missions.
I'm sick. How do you feel about mission trips?
Ooh, so to be 100% honest, when
you about to say something spicy. You about to get spicy, y'all. Hold up. We need the horns.
When I first heard about mission trips, and that was like back in high school, I was like, why are we going to different countries to try to help people when we got people that are hurting and struggling like right here in our own backyard? Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, God's called me to be here for those people in our own backyard, blah, 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 blah.
Fair enough, yeah.
And I believed that for a long time, and I wouldn't go on mission trips. I never really did I don't think I did any mission trips in high school. And so I journeyed this route, and I had a friend in a young adults group that just kept telling me, he's like, hey, we go to this like weekend mission trip type thing, and it's super cool. And like, come with me. It's going to be awesome. And I'm like, we go to Rocky Point. It's safe. I promise. Like, it's just come with me. And like, literally every single time we come up, I was like, nah, dude, I'd make an excuse and I wouldn't go. And he finally was like, hey, dude, come with me. I was finally like, you know what? You bugged me enough and you're not going to stop. So I will go with you to this, spend 3 days on this weekend mission and do, whatever it looks like.
Yeah.
And God just wrecked me. In a good way. Okay. I went down there. You're like, hold on.
Mudslide. Soldier Boy just survived a mudslide, just so y'all know. Okay.
But like, I go down there and just to see these people just worshiping God in a sense of where they're at, a full family of 5 living in like a 2-bedroom, and not even a 2-bedroom, a bedroom and like a living room and a kitchen. And that's all they got. And like, doesn't have doors, maybe got windows, like, but they're praising God and they're thankful for what they have and they're thankful for their family. And I'm sitting here going, I'm comfortable. Like, I got it good. Like, I got AC, I got heater, I got blankets, I got my own room, I got, and they're all sharing the space and like, they're praising God for what they have. Mm-hmm. And like, we'd go in and be like, hey, like, let's fix this. And they're like, I'm good. Like, God's blessed us. We're blessed. And I'm like, oh.
You sure?
I'm like, man. I'm like, geez. Like, and so from that point on, I was wrecked and went to serve in Kenya and Haiti and just broken for missions. Like, and so I firmly believe if you haven't gone on a mission trip, go on a mission trip, do it. It's amazing. But for me, I love mission trips. But what about you, Javon?
I don't know jack about, man. I people hit you up and they're like, go on a mission trip. Mm-hmm. But if we're just being honest, I'm not trying to be spicy. Shout out to everybody who goes on mission trips. Y'all the real MVPs. But one, we lived in a town where we didn't go on mission trips. Nobody had the money to go on trips. We wasn't going nowhere. Like a mission trip was home. Like, no,
From
but
home to school. No.
Yeah, right. Uphill, both ways. Okay. But we never went on mission trips. And so I always see people go on mission trips and I'm like, that looks fun, but I never felt called to mission trips.
Yep.
Because something about me always felt like the trips that people were going on that I knew of, they weren't doing anything. And then when they were doing things, they were doing things that weren't sustainable.
Oof.
So never really got about it because they'd go to this really impoverished place and then they build them a nice park. And I'm like, really? If I'm starving, I ain't got a house and you build me a park? What, slide into poverty? I don't know. That's not fun.
Like a food bank, like something.
A food bank, a house, a kitchen, foster care, something that means something more than just some entertainment or just things that they bring there and then when they leave, it's gone. Like I don't feel like
they take with them. Like they bring it in and they do it, but they don't leave anything.
Yeah, and then they take it
back. It all leaves with them and then nothing stays.
It doesn't make sense to me. So I never got fired up for missions. And now even working in a church, it's hard for me to be like, let's go on a mission trip. That's why I haven't planned one yet because I'm like, I've only seen bad examples. Yeah. And I hear more about how people's lives were affected when they went, but I never hear enough about whose lives were affected after they left. Yeah. So that's good. That's mad deep, spicy, though. But
that's deep though. And it's true. Like I think you had said something when you first went over that, as you said, the idea of like people go on mission trips and you don't really see much happening or you don't see like them doing much. And like that for me has always been a struggle on mission trips is that people go on mission trips and it should be about the mission. It should be about what you're doing. Yeah. But then you get on the flip side of it becoming a vacation. You're out here, drinking it's the idea of you going outside and you're stepping outside your comfort zone and you're like immersing yourself and like be present with where you're at. And I know that technology is so advanced and, safety is super important. And I get that side of it. But do you really need to have your phone on all the time, taking pictures, Instagramming, posting you drinking, a drink you can get in America,
mocha latte, something like that,
whatever, And I'm not hating on anyone that's doing that, but what I'm saying is you're not stepping outside your comfort zone to the sense of being present. And then I know I'm gonna get hate in the side of them saying, well, like we need a day of rest and we need to relax, after the spiritual warfare we've done. Like I get that. There's ways to rest and be present and be immersed. And mission trips are hard. You have to prepare for those. You can't just go out there and expect what you're going to see is going to be easy. Yeah. It's not. We're in this bubble that we think everything's, like we have it, but it's not. And so, but for you to go and it become like a vacation or to add to your list of places you traveled or to, go with a clique or a group, like, that's where I hop off the bus of being like all information. Cause I'm going, what's your heart? What's your intent of going? And, for me, I've always been behind, long-term missions and short-term missions are great too, but long-term missions and going back, not just going, hey, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go there and I'm going to go there and I'm going to go there. You're going to all these places. That's great. Yeah. But going back and continuing to bring change. And like the first time I went to Haiti, it was amazing because they've been building this building for a long time. And like the roof was a section, the walls were another section, the floor was another section. And so they kept doing little parts to it. And they finally had the walls up. We were putting paint in. They had the money to do windows. We were digging a well. We were putting doors up. We were like brought beds. They had the bed frames. So we were literally making it livable. And they were transferring the orphans from their kind of place where they're at in the inner city to this like almost country farmland that was safe and comfortable. And they had like a whole fence around and water. And they were building a school on the outside. And so they were moving them to a more suitable, habitable life finally. Sure. Yeah. And like that for me was huge because that has been several trips and that's the progress. And you see, and this last trip that went down, I wasn't able to go on, but I got to see the fruits of them actually just going and just being present. They were doing like a VBS and they were connecting and like teaching the kids and, teaching how to write and different things like that. And it's like, that was a sustainable thing. Like that is something they can continue to come back and do and create relationships and connections with these students and even the adults that are there working in connection, just to continue to pour in and continue to show love and show up. Yeah. Because that's my biggest heart. You go in, but then you take everything back out with you and you never show back up again.
And the thing is, again, we're not anti-missions. I promise you.
This isn't biased. This is,
And like, the thing is, I see I know a lot of people who go on mission trips and they actually go and do stuff. Like there's the people that go build the houses in Mexico. And I have a lot of friends who've gone out and done that. And they've shown me pictures of the houses. They show me all these things, the families that are working for it and all that stuff. I love that. But I hate that if I go on and I see somebody just posting like the fun parts of the mission trip, if me as a Christian says, what are you doing? I can only imagine what somebody as a non-Christian is going to say of like, what are you doing? Are you even doing anything important?
You're telling me like, and I get like, again, you got to be careful with what you do and what you post and where you take photos. And like some of these places you go, like you can get killed for like what you're doing or the idea of a mission trip, you know, us bringing God's word or the Bible or whatever in that. But again, like you have tons of people that are donating, you know, they can't physically go.
Yeah.
Or they don't have the means of going. And so they're donating their resources or money or even, you know, whatever they can to donate to get you to go or be able to be a part of this experience. And all I'm seeing is a overglorified vacation, you know, through your social media.
A Christian vacation.
A Christian vacation. And like, again, not knocking mission trips. I think mission trips are phenomenal. And in the beginning, you heard me say mission trips are where it's at for me. And like, I think our lives change, but life change can happen in where we go and where we serve.
Yeah. And, you know, I like the idea of missions. I think maybe I could just not be called to it. And I'd rather spend my time doing things like feed my starving children, things like that, where I can just go out and pack some bags, or I can sponsor a kid in a different country, or later on when I'm older and ready for children, I can adopt one. Things like that, where I can see the change happening and I can make sure that I'm doing something that's not harming somebody else or harming a culture that's being made.
Again, that's how God designed and wired us in that kind of realm, which I think is kind of funny talking about design and wiring, because you got a MacBook over there and I got a Dell sitting up here on this conversation, which leads me to this idea.
We're not even gonna
of you know, who was the original OG of, you know, ministry? Was it a Mac? Or
the
was
OG of ministry was Jesus.
Windows. I mean, yes, very true. I'm just saying, like, you out here, you know, and, you know, you could spend thousands and thousands of dollars on, you know,
never. I've never spent $1,000 on a MacBook.
You know, you can get, you know, a $600, $800 perfectly good Dell that's going to
run
you into
the ground. All right, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. I'm not trying to come into your pockets, but how much is it? If you were to buy that at retail, how much did you pay for the computer?
Well, it was a gift, so I didn't technically pay for it.
Okay, how much did they pay for it?
You know, I want to say it was like $800, maybe
$300 right here. Thank you. $300 for this beautiful MacBook. I don't know. I bought it from somebody. The charge was eating up all that, and it was $300. And I knew that
was
Christianity
a mission trip in itself for you to go get it. No,
it was amazing. I'm not gonna lie to you.
But no. Like, but for real though, Apple versus Android. Like, I think in the end of all be all, if there's an apocalyptic world, like I'm still around. Jesus hasn't come back yet. I can build a CB radio. I can connect with people through a PC, through an Android. But then you out here and, you know, you got to get, you know, Apple Tech. If you don't have an Apple Tech in your survival kit, you know, you can't be cracking open a MacBook knowing what you're doing and, you know, piecing together, you know, rescue and, you know, a plan and direction.
Listen. If somebody busts in my house and I snap a picture of him on an Android, they ain't catching him. If somebody break in my house and I snap a picture on my iPhone, they gonna know us. Age, his social security number.
Google Pixel phone right now.
Who has a Google Pixel?
Let's talk about that phone. The night flash. Not even okay. You know what? That's a whole nother topic. We ain't even talking about.
Just so y'all know, every church endorses Apple.
By far,
it is what it is.
I have Apple products.
God loves Apple.
I love it. Minus the bite that was taken out of the Apple and the Apple logo. The Apple Let's just talk about, you know, the original fall.
You know
that
what?
had happened.
Let's just, you know,
was, you know, Adam and Eve taking a bite out of the apple from sin and the knowledge of good and evil.
This is not a theological debate podcast.
You're right.
Yep, next.
You're right. So, but no.
So I was having this conversation earlier today in a meeting, and we were talking about the pros and cons to having a younger worship leader in our church, and it made me think. Is like the church world just moving towards younger people in general? Or is it just where I've been recently? Like, what's going on? What do you think's going on?
Yeah, no, I think I think it's been an interesting like approach and an interesting dynamic, because even like the church I work for, it's a big part of our staff is a millennial staff. I mean, a high school pastor, the 6th grade pastor, children's teams, worship leaders. Like, I mean, is a young millennial staff, and just leading in this church along with, I mean, be careful, I'm not trying to say elders, but along with the founding fathers of like kind of how they built this.
That was the sweetest way to say old people that I've ever heard in my life.
Along with the old people, you're right, but I'm trying to be respectful.
People,
the older people,
yeah.
The older adults, and leading with it, there's this passion and this fire that's like just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And the other part that I see is cool too is seeing the lead pastor speak and pour into those young people.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, having a, what he calls like millennial meeting, having that meeting with his team and asking them first on, you know, land purchases or conversations about the church or directions or things that we're doing or where we're going. And that to me speaks volume that you're inviting the younger generation in, and you're building that next generation of foundation and pouring into and mentoring and developing. And so I think for me, that in that realm is super healthy and super good. And it's like an aspect of just this new dynamic of super good. That's not a sentence, but this new dynamic of where the church is going and becoming, straight up, not an English major. You can note that for sure. But in the same breath, I've seen it also be hurtful.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I've seen younger generation come in and, you know, I want to devote my time. I want to be fully invested. I want to do this, blah, 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 blah. I want to be a world changer. I want to move mountains. I'm going to come in.
Big dreams.
Big dreams. But their heart's not in the right place. And they get lost in the midst of life and everything else. And they end up steamrolling. They end up like not just bulldozing what was there or what's in the way, or coming into a ministry that's not even where God's called them or lead them, but they're sitting there and they're filling a void or they're filling a gap, and you're going, what are you doing? You're missing your calling. You're not in tune to what God's called you to do. And because of that, you're leaving behind this trail of destruction. And I see it happening all over the valley of younger pastors coming in and leaving and going for the next big thing. And, you know, oh, I want to be a speaking pastor. I want to be like Stephen Furtick. I want to be like these big guys. And it's like, that's great. Those are big goals and those are big dreams. And, you know, God is going to call some of those younger people to those positions. So like it's going to happen. But being who God called you to be and being where God called you to be is important. And knowing that, you know, it's not about the next thing and it's not about the next position. It's not about the next pay raise, but being present where God has you and being so in tune to what he's called you to do that you're listening for him to tell you to stay or to go.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was that dude. Honestly, 18 to 20, I'm like, what's next, God? What's next? When am I going to get on a big stage? What am I going to do next? And what I realized is that I finally got to a point this year, like literally this year, that I don't have a plan B. First time ever. Like I was always like, if I leave here, I know I can go here, here, and here, right? But this is the first time I've ever not had a plan B, because I'm trying to figure out, am I just chasing opportunity when any door opens? Am I just running through it? Or am I actually making like a discernment? Like, am I having discernment with every decision that I'm making? Because they say, the stats probably fake, but they say it's like 8 months to 2 years that a youth pastor stays on staff somewhere. Might be true. I don't know.
I've seen it. I've seen it hands down. 8 months to 2 years, I would say is pretty, and that's like even like past now. I would say 8 months to a year. Like you see pastors coming in and then they're moving their family across country because of better position, you know, and better speaking opportunities or the next thing.
I think that also comes with that people aren't in the churches that they're happy with, though. I think a question you got to ask yourself at the end of the day is, would you attend the church that you work at if you weren't working there? Because they actually asked that question on one of these Facebook groups the other day. Like, would you attend the church that you work at if you didn't, whatever, you know the question. A bunch of people said no. And I'm like, dang. I'm like, I guess you can work at McDonald's and not eat it, but I don't know if that's good for your spiritual well-being, you know?
Yeah, no. And I think the truth is like this idea of like, if you aren't even comfortable, like if you could, like, does that mean, how are you growing? I guess is my next point. How are you growing? Are you intently growing? Are you moving into this new season? Are you, you know, and some people I know it's like, oh, but I'm in ministry and my service time is the same time as the other one. Hey, they record it. They record it. You can watch it. Some churches have Saturday services.
Yep.
Some have 2 services.
Go to another church.
Go
and
to
watch
another
a
church.
service.
And watch it. Like something. You gotta be growing. But in the same breath, like if you wouldn't attend your own church, but yet you're gonna be leading in a position, leading in your church, that's a heart check.
And here's a question: if you work at a church and you're telling other people to go to this church, are you lying to them when you say it's a good thing?
Now to go back to our last episode of that like the fake smile,
But
you go fake facade of going, hey, like, no, it's great and here's good, and
yeah, I love it. So
I tell people, like,
so excited.
I tell people that like it was rough when I transitioned from my previous church to the church I wear and where I am now. Like it was a journey because I was used to one culture and one thing, and I'm an outsider. I'm a misfit coming into this group that's already been here and been together and grown up together, done sports together, whatever it may be. And for a long time, I felt like an outsider. I felt like I don't fit in. I don't fit in this connect. And they're like, no, you're here for a reason. God's moved you here for a reason. And I mean, we can get into that story another time, but that direction of how God moved me there was just so divine that you look back and you go, there's no way that wasn't God.
Right, yeah.
Come in here and tell me and prove to me that wasn't God. There's no way that the direction of where he led me and where he took me and what he took me through, and the doors that magically opened at the right times when they did, and like even when I ran away, it was like, hey, this door's open, step through it. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, cool, like let's go. I'm like, let's do it, but it leads me back to the point of the younger generation in the church. I think it also goes to this idea of the older generation in the church of what are we doing to build up that younger generation, and vice versa. What are we doing as a younger generation to learn from our older generation as well too?
Yeah, I mean, well, so it seems a lot of the times that it almost looks like a business move to hire younger people. Like I know some people who like they've lost positions because they were too old for the position. Those positions look more like youth pastors and worship leaders. They're like, oh, you're just getting too old for this. And that's what makes me question, is the younger culture coming in a business move, like a chess move, or is it something that people are doing intentionally? Like it seems like in your situation, you have these older people who are bringing in these younger people and they're feeding into them. They're helping them grow. Like they're watering the tree. The tree's going to grow.
The roots are going to get planted.
Yeah, but there are other people who are just bringing them in for aesthetic. And so now you have this young, hip youth pastor who doesn't want to be at your church. He's using it as a stepping stone to get to a church that he wants to. And ultimately it all fails, because I see it too often. There are people who are like, well, I got to find a new job. You see it all the time. I got to leave worship ministry. I have to leave youth ministry because I'm just getting too old and they're not going to want me anymore. And I'm like, you got to be out of your mind. One of my boys' moms is a worship leader over at a huge church, killing it. And some people might say she's too old to leave, but she doesn't act like it. She knows that God has called her to do a certain thing, and she's not going to stop because society tells her that she's too old to do it. Yeah. And so as long as the old people are feeding into the younger people so that they can grow into those older people who feed into more young people, then we have a beautiful cycle going.
It just keeps happening, and we continue to move up through that. And I think even in that realm, you see, like you mentioned, the culture that's there, like being so in tune. And I get it. It's a great play to move in and bring in a young hip guy that's going to know the culture and whatever. But it's also like that young hip guy needs to be cultured in the church and the dynamic and like the growth and where they've gone and what we've been through and like what's the journey. And, because you bring a young guy in and they're gung ho and they're ready and they're fresh out of seminary or they're fresh out of college and they're like, youth ministry is awesome, whatever. And they jump in, college, right? Working on that.
Working on it.
And they jump into these positions and they're like, woo. And that young guy was me, and minus the college part, working on college, jumping in and going, I'm all in, let's go. And let's like 24/7. Let's go. And I'll be here like Monday through 9 to 5 every single day this week and blah, blah. And like, I'd be in the office when none of the pastors would be in the office. Doing work, doing whatever. Oh, you need a flyer? I got a flyer. Oh, you need this? Oh, yeah. Oh, you need this event? I got it. Oh, you need this message? Because we're all in. And then it's a stepping stone. We're trying to build that, but it was never getting poured into.
Sure.
And then that not getting poured into led me to being, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, no one's valuing me. No one's appreciating me. What is going on? Like, I'm getting burnt out. Like, I'm bending over backwards here, doing everything. I'll go somewhere else. And then you're jaded towards ministry, which is hard because you have so many young leaders jaded towards ministry because they weren't being poured into and developed and mentored and don't know what's next. Sure. When that position or that door closes, or what seemed to be the redundant thing out of the end of last year and going into this year is a lot of my pastor friends are young like student ministry pastor friends are entering into these seasons of unknown with their church.
Yeah.
And get into seasons of like, either I'm being fired or I'm being let go, or like, because I feel like that I don't match the belief of where the church is going anymore, or like I don't fit in, or like we're not speaking. There's not an area for me to grow in, like where I'm at in my young adult stage or whatever it may be. And so, or we're not catering to the demographic that we're at, which is affecting the student ministry, which is a whole nother conversation.
Yep.
And so they're like, get to that, and they go, well, then I must not be called to student ministry. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? What are you talking about? You just hosted our summer camp, or you just did this
you just preached that,
and you were like, what? Like, stop. Like, don't, first off, don't listen to those lies. And second off, like, I was like, just because like you're not getting poured into doesn't mean that you can't seek that out or seek that community or find that somewhere. Because that's what, there's people out there that want to do it. And if you keep looking, and I promise you, look in your church. Like, if you're a youth pastor and you're listening, look in your church, because there are wise sages. I mean, I have 3 to 4 guys I meet with all the time at random moments. One that has been in ministry for 25 years, like student ministry for 25 years.
I'm just kidding.
And he's doing something else now, but like he's still plugged in and he's still invested in the church. And I get to sit with him and just pick his brain and just share like where I'm at. And he gets to share where, like, be careful where what I say, you know, back in his day, you know, where he was at.
Man, he's so scared of old people. Listen, you are not old. You are seasoned. You are salt and pepper. Amen. Can we preach this? Can we preach this tonight?
Right.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
All right, little me start. All right, come back. But like this idea of like that there are people that want to pour into you, invest into you. Yeah. And so even if like maybe it's not your lead pastor, maybe it's not your boss or whoever's your direct report, there are people that want to pour into you and speak life into you.
For sure. Well, I think people need to stop putting caffeine in tea, because I'm feeling jittery right now and I don't know why. I'm like, what is going on? But no,
cranberry Sprite earlier. Yeah, it was perfect.
I get that, but I think that a lot of people are burning themselves out, and then they're blaming the church too. Like at the end of the day, when you first start, you want to do all these things, but I don't think you necessarily have to do all these things most of the time. You're like, I want to do the new event. I want to do the big thing. I want to be here 9 to 5. I want to do this. I want to do that because I want to prove myself that I'm worthy of this position. And what people need to realize is that there's nothing in the world that's going to make you worthy of a position.
Nope.
Right? We were never called to be, well, we're called to be perfect. We're called to try to be perfect, do the best that we can. But at the end of the day, we're going to miss the mark. That's not a crutch to use, but it is a realization that it's reality. You know, you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to do the best events every time. Not every Sunday you're going to come in going super hard. Sometimes you're going to miss one of your points. Sometimes you're going to think you're going to preach your best message and it's going to be doo-doo. It's going to be doo-doo. And the students are going to know. The volunteers are going to know. The head pastor's going to know. Your mama going to know. Your daddy going to. If you got daddy, I ain't got daddy. But I'm just saying, we ain't gonna go there. But sometimes it's just not gonna work out. And I think that these youth pastors are getting in, they're like, I'm fresh out of college. Yes, look at me. I have a 4-year degree and I'm ready to go. And you're not, because you don't have the real life ministry experience and you burn yourself out.
Ain't gonna be what you're gonna be able to do. And like, that was me. Like I ran for a full year the first time I was here. And I was going, well, I want to do that. I'm just now slowing down in the pace that God has me and telling me that like, I don't need to prove myself. I mean, like I feel like I've done that, but I don't need to do that. Why? Because God tells my worth and God tells where my value's at. And God appointed me in this position. Yep. And God moved me here. Come on. And my lead pastor reminds me of that daily. You know, the moments when he pulls me aside and I'm walking across campus, I get, hey, Matt, come here real quick. And he's like, hey, this is so-and-so. And we've been old friends for this long and all about. And he's the founder of this. I'm like, I don't feel worthy to be in your presence, but okay, cool. And he's like, yeah. And then he'll just go off and go, Matt's killing it in our junior ministry. I'm like, wait, what? Like, I'm all right. Like, I'm just trying to make it work. Just connecting with the dude. And he's like, no, stop. Like, he's so humble. I'm like, I'm not humble. I'm really like, I try to be, but like, I'm like, man, like, I don't deserve that.
Yeah, for sure.
But God knows where he's put me. God knows what he's doing. God knows where he's moving. Yeah. And so in that, I got to trust in the promise and trust where I've been appointed and where I've been at. And you leaders out there need to trust that where you're at is where you're supposed to be.
Well, here's a question. Do you think that it's a lead pastor not telling their youth pastor how they feel of their performance that's making these burnouts things going on? Because my lead pastor tells me when I'm doing good. My lead pastor also tells me when I need to pick up some slack. He tells me if he likes my pace. He tells me if he thinks I'm going too fast. They keep in touch with where I'm going and how I'm doing, making sure that I'm taking my rest, make sure that I'm making sure everything at home is fine. Do you think that the reason why some people are burning out so fast is that nobody's telling them to slow down, or nobody's telling them that their performance is good enough, or that they don't need to keep trying to prove themselves? Or what do you think?
We literally just talked on this past Sunday. My word this year has been stride, nothing to do with this conversation, but this idea of walking intently and walking in this pace of grace per se. But we literally just talked on this idea that who told you to run? Who told you, to go, right?
I mean, you're right.
Like, it was like, who told you that? And it's this idea, everybody. Since you're a baby, you're told to like, oh, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like, I'm a baby. I'm trying to get the square block and the square hole, the triangle block and the triangle hole and the circle block and the circle hole.
Before you finish. So you're gonna have a son one day. You're like, son, what are you gonna go? I'm a baby. And you're gonna be like,
I'm like, you're right, you are. Be a baby.
Yeah,
no,
there you go.
But no, but like this idea that there's all these things and all these pressures for the next thing,
Sure, yeah.
You get to junior high. It's like, oh, what do you want to do when you're in college? You're like, what? College, like I'm trying to figure out how to play basketball, and make the basketball team, and I'm going to get cut and make friends. I'm getting bullied and shoved in lockers, and I'm growing and developing, and this is and my voice is getting deep, like and you're going through all these moments, and then you get to high school, and it just keeps going. It's a continuous cycle of like, oh, where do you want to be, and oh, who are you going to marry, and you start dating someone. It's immediate, like literally just had this conversation with someone earlier. They're like, oh, it's that time. It's time for you to get married. I'm like, I will know when it's time for me to get married. God will appoint me in the division and the direction of what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Just as he's going to appoint you when you're supposed to have kids. All right. You don't see me sitting there going, hey, where the baby's at when they do.
Oh my gosh. Christians do that all the time.
And so this idea of everybody is telling us for the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, right? Which causes us to just speed up.
Yeah.
Speed our pace up.
Faster.
When God's saying, hey, you're supposed to walk with me.
Yeah,
I promised something to the Israelites back in the day for a long time, but they didn't receive that for several generations. So walk with me and you will receive it in my divine intervention when you have provision to utilize it the best.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I just feel like, I think so many leaders are trapped in that cycle of just running, and pastors are running and you're not resting. And in that resting, when you run, like you run into a wall, there's damage. Yeah. When you're running through your life
to the wall.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, you're stacked in
biblical gains.
Biblical gains. Stop.
These Samson gains, brother.
Let me chop that hair real quick and say, I'm just kidding.
I forgot. No. Look, guys, somebody ain't read the whole story. I'm just playing.
But this idea that you run and the destruction you leave in running in your family, in your marriage, in your relationships, in your so many pastors, and you're seeing this hurt all over the world, or pastors, with this mental health and this, you're not resting.
Yeah.
You're running, and you can't catch your breath if you're always running. And eventually your legs are going to give up and you're going to fall flat on your face.
Yeah.
And you're going to look back and go, what?
Yeah.
How long have I left that carnage, or how long have I left that damage, or how long have I been running past all those different things that I haven't seen?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to lose so much and so many things around you.
Yeah. And I think that's the worst part about it all, is that I don't think that people even care about the pace, like the congregation. Like I've never heard really somebody be like, we're in this series way too long. We haven't had enough events this year. It's like, I think that we're forcing ourselves to do all this stuff just over and over again, thinking like they need at least 8 events a year. They need a different series to change every 2 weeks. They need this, they need that, they need this. And they don't take the chance to stop and ask their congregation, like, what do you guys want? Like, what are your expectations of me? Like, honestly. Like I asked my students when I first started, we went to camp, and their old pastor had been there for 8 years. So I'm like, I'm the new guy. I look nothing like this guy. We're completely different. And I love that we're different, but I also realized that they were always used to one thing. And I was like, how am I going to be what they need me to be while not compromising who I am?
Yep.
Right. And so I laid it out flat. I was like, listen, there's nothing wrong with your old pastor. He's probably a great guy. I don't even know him. But he lasted way longer than the typical youth pastor, so he's got to be a great guy.
He's got to be doing something right.
Right. And so I'm like, what do you guys expect of me? Because I'm not going to kill myself to gain your approval. At the end of the day, my entire job is to please God and to push you further towards him. And if I live by societal standards of work, It's not going to happen.
No.
I'm going to burn out.
Yeah.
In 6
easily.
months, be done. You're like, I need to do 500 events. I need to have all these Bible studies. All this events.
I'm writing every single sermon, every single weekend. Like,
yeah, it's like, I'm going to preach 4 different messages. It's like, at the end of the day, it could be that they didn't even expect that from you. And you just chose to torture yourself. So I wonder, does the congregation really care if we do all these things? Do they really care what pace we go at? Do they really care if there are a bunch of young people on staff? Do they really care about any of this stuff, or do we overcomplicate ministry? I guess really is what it comes down to. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we end up overcomplicating it in the sense of we put so much on that strenuous. And yes, you have to be in tune to your church, and you have to be in tune to your body, and you have to be in tune to the people in the congregation and the direction of what you're doing and where you're going, and to the spirit of what God's leading you. But in that, how much do we put on, well, the next door is doing this, so we gotta, get on.
Man, that's true. Yeah.
Well, well, they just had this and they have this weekends. Well, we gotta be doing something wrong.
Yeah.
No, like so many churches have multiple split households where your kids are at my church one weekend and my kids are at your church the next weekend.
Yep.
And so that's going to mess our whole vibe of tracking and attending to figure out where you're at. And until you have a sit down conversation with that student, and he goes, "No, I don't get to choose. I go with mom one day and I go with dad the next." And so, it's a flip flop weekend. But we have to be in tune with our congregation, our body, and seeing what's good. And I think I've heard of so many good pastors that will sit down with their student leader team or even with their students and say, "Hey, what do you guys want to do? Or what areas are we missing?" Or for our events, I'm sitting here, trying to create this cool idea of we're going to do this. We're going to do laser tag. And we're going to lock in, blah, blah.
And your budget be like,
yeah. Yeah. Nope.
Nope.
I saw a meme today. It's like your budget's like, hold up. Nope. You can't do that.
I said that to my admin today.
It's so good. But then you get there and you have no students show up. And you have no buy-in.
Yeah.
And the students are like, we would have been cool if you would have just ordered pizza and we would have played video games.
Dude, say that again, bro.
Or we would have been cool if you would have just shown up and we were at a park playing kickball.
Yep.
Or we would have been cool if we literally just had a night where we had a bonfire and we were just hanging out.
That's simple.
It's that simple. It's being into tune to your community and to the circle that you're in and listening to where you're at so that way you can guide and you can lead and you can just direct with what God's placed you and where he's placed you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's that simple.
Yeah. To finish that up, it's like, know your culture and know your people, and ministry is going to be a whole bunch easier.
Know your culture, know your people.
And it'll be that much easier.
So much easier.
Dang, that just got deep.
I love that. Hey, we're not going deep this episode. Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are.
We're the Ministry Misfits. We don't take anything out.
Man. So my church is gonna hate me for me saying this on air.
Then don't.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it anyways. I love y'all guys. There's a widespread debate, and this is not only just in the church that I'm in. This is in a bunch of churches that I've been to.
Okay.
Communion.
Ooh.
What? Do you get the wafers? Do you get the bread? Do you get the nasty
Do you get
dry
the
crackers?
gluten-free?
Hey man, celiac's real, brother. Some people can't have.
I'm not making fun of celiacs. I'm not. I promise.
No,
it's a real
brother,
thing.
Not girlfriend. Gluten free. Let's go. We here, baby. Gluten free pita.
I feel like the Lord. You know what? I'm just gonna say it. I go straight for the cracker and the bread. Some churches have crackers. I get it. I understand. Budget costs, whatever. But I go straight for the bread and the wine. First off, for me, it just feels more like symbolic in the direction where I go.
Sure.
But for me, it's like, hey, first off, to have a little wine in church, like, hey, come on. But second off,
amen.
Being real. But second off, for me, it's the connection and where I'm at in it, and that whole vegan stuff. I feel like God made bread.
Here we go. Before we get in there,
the manna from heaven.
Before we go there, honestly, you could give me a Cheez-It and some warm Dr. Pepper, and I'll be popping.
I feel like I've done communion with a donut hole, and what did we do? We broke up a donut. It wasn't a donut hole. We broke up a donut, and we had what did we have? I forget what it was. It was something gross.
Do you want the Fanta? Fanta? Was it Fanta?
It wasn't Fanta, but it was
Fanta's
something.
Fire.
It was something. It was some juice, some crazy concoction of juice, and we're just That's what we got. Like, ooh, yeah, nope.
Y'all church is wild.
Not here, not where I'm at. This was outside. Yeah, but it was like, it was a moment, and it was still symbolic. It was still the moment. It was still the intentionality. So I think no matter what you use for communion, whatever cracker, whatever bread, whatever juice, whatever. I understand Welch's is great. Now, Welch's, you want to sponsor us? We got you.
Shout out to Welch's. Shout out to Planet Fitness. We'll have a giant glass of Planet Fitness and Welch's. But I mean, whatever you use, I think it's symbolic for you, and it's a moment for you to be present and remember. So, bet. All right, let's get up out of here.
Yep.
All right, if you're bored, if you're having fun, if you're an enthusiast, if you're on our second episode and you're like, this is the best podcast ever,
or this is the worst podcast ever,
it's fine. We're just glad that you're here. Welcome and thank you for hanging out with the Ministry Misfits Podcast. And I said it right, MMP. That looks like a gang sign. All right, let's go. Yeah.